Welcome to another episode of One of Us Knows What They're Talking About, and the other one is you. I'm Lori Burch, your host. Join us as we discuss and unpack wills, trusts, estate planning, and probate law in a way that's actually informative, interesting, and, well, hopefully entertaining. Because if you don't have a will, the state of Texas has one for you. Let's dive in. So today we're going to talk more about probate. You all know I used to have like this show. We did like 3 episodes called the Estates and Probates show.
No, I didn't know that.
Who'd you do it with?
It was me and Matthew, my previous paralegal. And then my buddy Stuart, who did marketing for some time with us, he would do the recordings. And the best part was that large tree that's in my office, we did different locations with the episodes, but we put that tree in every episode. Actually, nice. We did one at my house, and we thought later we should have brought the tree home and put it in the house. Anyway, and this was before Between Two Ferns. So I just want to go on the record that like Galifianakis? How do you say his name? Galifianakis. Anyway, He totally stole this idea from me, but it was pretty good. But we're talking about probate. We've talked about it before. We'll talk about it again. It's kind of the thing we do. And so I wanted to, it's August, at least when this is being recorded, not necessarily when you all are listening. But last August, I did this thing, and it's only because I didn't have this podcast, actually. But it's kind of a precursor to the podcast because it's the way that I get out my feelings. And so I call it the 31 Days of Truth. The 31 Days of Truth. And every day starting on August 1st, I would post a meme with a message. And so one of the messages that we had, and I used this meme from Game of Thrones, and I'm setting this up because I feel like for Sam and Sara, it'll be better if you understand that there's somewhat of a Game of Thrones theme going on here. Mm-hmm. But I had the, oh my gosh, it's been a long time. I'm forgetting what his name was. Ned Stark, the photo of him where it says, you don't even know. Sarah, have you even watched Game of Thrones?
Nope.
Okay. Anyway, so it said, brace yourself, probate is coming. And so that can mean a lot of things. One of the way that I talked about this in that particular, I was going to say blog, but rant, I think is fair.
Series
is that,
of rants?
Yes, but this particular one, to brace yourself, probate is coming, is that there's a couple things that people are not always aware of. I have a visitor.
Oh,
he just asked, did you hear that? He just asked for Marcel.
Good one.
Come on. Brace yourself, Memphis is coming. But anyway, have fun editing this, Sarah. But one of the things that's important to understand is, probate, and see one of our previous episodes where we talk about what probate is, but it is basically the court process where a judge makes all the decisions for you, or even if you have a will, which is what I'm getting to, is it still does have to go through a probate process. What? Yes, I know that is very off-putting to some people.
Oh no.
And now it's still really good to have a will, but it does have to go through a probate process. And so there's still some additional costs in all of that. And we're going to dive into what that might look like. But the thing that I would say is that there are also options for avoiding probate altogether. And in the blog, I said, for those of fans of the movie Airplane, I hope that some of you are saying in unison, there are many options of avoiding probate. But if you have not seen that movie, it's pretty much everybody that works at Burch Law, because they're too young to have seen that classic, and you don't know what I'm saying. But there's this part in it where they're on a plane and everybody gets sick, and so they're trying to find someone who can fly the plane. And they have someone who flew in the war, like single engine prop plane sort of thing. And he's like, I can't fly this plane. It's an entirely different kind of flying altogether. And so the people he's talking to said, and you said, it's an entirely different kind of flying. So when I say there are many options of avoiding probate altogether, you would say there are many options to avoiding probate. That was the joke.
Or
maybe not so much a joke as a reference, not a literary
It's a reference,
but a pop culture Gen X reference, right? But then when we were talking about this, there's so many different ways and things we could talk about when it comes to brace yourself, probate is coming. But Cynthia had a couple ideas of some specific examples of where people may not realize that probate is coming, but they better brace themselves. What are some of your examples, Cynthia?
my favorites. These are okay. Let me start at the top. So whenever we have somebody call in and say, "Hi, I have a relative that recently passed away," we're so sorry to hear that because we're human beings and we care. And then after that, we're like, okay, so there's definitely help with that. Can I just have this here all the time? Can he come to the office?
I don't know that he's going to want to come to the office. We tried that.
What'd you say, Sarah?
Office cat.
Office cat. We did try the office cat, but then I think the office cat ran away.
Oh,
I'm still fuzzy on that story. Not as fuzzy as Memphis, though.
Oh. Hard to be.
Yeah. Anyway, so they call us. We say we can help after we express our sympathies. And then they're like, well, the bank told me that I can just do a small estate affidavit. And we're like, that's cute. We really need to talk to you. They're like, no, but
this literally happened today. Like, this happens all the time, but it happens so much. It happened today.
It did happen today. And it happened like 2 weeks ago.
Today.
Okay, puppy.
Today. How do you say it, Sam?
Today? Well, I did a question mark, so it went up. But today? Have you never noticed my voice goes higher?
So
when I have a question mark at the end?
That's
in New Zealand.
You mean that's
everywhere. That is an everywhere thing.
We have that here in America too.
Oh,
we have that in Mexico too.
So there is no vowel between T and D for you today.
No. Yeah. Like good day.
Yeah. Same.
Good day, mate.
Like good day. But
that's Australian. That's not New Zealand.
That's not you.
Very important to nobody but Sam that you know that.
One time I heard Sam on the phone with her father and he said that she sounded a little Australian and she just said, "How dare you?" And I was like, whoa, shots fired.
Did she say, "How dare you, mate"?
No.
I don't think I've ever seriously said mate in my life. I don't think I was old enough.
Okay, but anyway, I did transition hands there for people who watch this. Anyway, so
these are transition hands. Now we all know. Oh, Memphis
people will call and say that the bank told them to do this, and we're like, "Hey, bud, but no." Hearing more of your specific situation, you can't do that. You have to.
We have an episode about banks. Go listen to it.
My favorite is whenever they say, "We have a will, but the bank said we could just do a small estate affidavit." You want to hear it? No, you can't. Hey, you can't do that.
Why?
Because a small estate affidavit is only if there is no will.
Oh.
Here's another thing that getting legal advice from attorneys who are not probate attorneys in the state that the decedent lived in, that that is incorrect is with a small estate affidavit, the total assets, with the exception of a homestead, which we can talk about what that means, with the exception of the homestead, cannot currently in 2 days, because I'm sure people are going to listen to our podcast decades from now. So in 2024, it cannot exceed 75,000. But what happens is a lot of these financial institutions, they're only looking at the one account. And they're like, oh, you could just do a small estate affidavit because it's below 75,000. But what if they have a stock account that is worth 50 and then they have another account that's worth 10,000? That, like, you can't do that. The other thing is the debts cannot exceed the value of the estate. So if you're under the $75,000 threshold, let's say it's a $30,000 account, but there's debts that are $40,000, a small estate affidavit won't work unless you also pay down those debts. So a lot of issues with that. Now, should we talk about homestead? Sarah,
Yeah, I think
is
we
a
should.
homestead? What is a homestead?
Please.
What does it mean?
Oh,
This seems fair.
Are you Googling?
I don't even know. I gotta be
What does it
honest.
sound like to you?
Let me do a little spoiler, Sarah. It's not Little House on the Prairie type homestead. So just keep going.
Thank you. Well, that's kind of what I was saying. It just sounds like a little house.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's
Any other guesses as what it can mean by?
Just a little
Have
house.
you heard, Sarah, about something called a homestead exemption?
all the time, and I have no idea what you are referring to.
That is awesome. Sam, do you know what a homestead is and what a homestead exemption is?
I know a homestead exemption is for people over 65.
Well, that would be the over 65 homestead exemption.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was more than one, but it's for property taxes, right? To give them a break.
Yes. Correct. So what would a homestead exemption be? A property tax exemption on what?
The home?
I mean, yes. Why are you overthinking this?
Your primary residence.
Yeah.
Yes, where you reside, your home. So for all of us,
You're dying. This is really good.
Listen, there's always a fear that I'm wrong.
All of us at Burch Law, us personally, as well as the people we rub elbows with, all have multiple properties. So we understand.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You can only reside in one. Only one can be your primary residence, your home. And that's the one that you designate as your homestead, where you can get the homestead exemption on it. And it is a break on property taxes. And then if you're over 65, also there's a veterans exemption. There's also a disabled exemption. These are additional exemptions on property taxes that you can get. So with the small estate affidavit, the value of your homestead does not get included in the 75,000. So let's play out a scenario that will be very interesting to me, Cynthia, maybe 10% interesting to Sam and 0% interesting to Sarah. If you have a married couple that both live in a home and one passes away and they only have $30,000 in a bank account in their house, can you do a small estate affidavit? Zero debt. The answer is yes, because the homestead doesn't get included.
Sarah's so excited she guessed right.
Let's say the homestead's worth $250. And by that, Sarah, it's what fancy people like me were saying. I don't mean $250. I don't mean $2.50. I mean $250,000. Okay. So let's say that. So let's say it's a single person that has adult children and they die. They've got their home that is their homestead, and they have $30,000 in the bank, no other assets, no debt. Can you do a small estate affidavit? What is the number one answer in the law?
It depends.
It actually depends. But in general, so part of the answer is no, because it's not a homestead anymore. Because the person who would inherit it by law, which by the way, elephant in the room, is with a small estate affidavit, it's only going to go to the heirs as determined by the laws of Texas. So, if you wanted it to go somewhere else or you wanted to exclude a family member, no go. This is only a way to get it to who your descendant or heirship line would be. So let's say in this case, it's a single adult or a single parent with one adult child. So there's no will. Remember, we already said this is the only scenario where you can use a small estate affidavit. The heir by Texas law would be the one adult child. However, that's not their homestead. So the $250,000 would be included, and it would kick you out of being able to do a small estate affidavit. The reason why it depends is because there is a way to do it, because you could do what's called affidavits of heirship for the real property, the home, and then that has transferred it and it takes it out of the calculation. Then we're just left with the $30,000 account, and you could do a small estate affidavit for it. Here is the most important takeaway from what I just talked about. Do you all know what it is? You know what it is? What's the most important takeaway, Sarah? Let me ask a different way. Did what I just explained seem a little bit complicated, a little bit nuanced? Like there's a lot of steps, a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot?
1,000%.
Okay.
Depends how you look at it.
So then the takeaway is that in the very rare case in Texas, the things we've described are things that you could actually do without a lawyer. When it comes to probate stuff, there's not many things you can do without a lawyer. But the examples that we've used thus far are typically ones you can. However, what is the benefit of using a qualified, experienced law firm in doing this stuff for you is to make sure all the little things I just described are done correctly. And when it comes to, back to Cynthia's point, what banks will tell you, what your brother's cousin's ex-wife did 30 years ago in Arizona did, what your friend's husband, who's a financial planner in California, tells you to do.
And another one. What the this is real good. What the title company tells you to do.
Oh, yeah.
Those are really banks, title companies, really up there with the advice.
Yeah. And the thing about like banks and title companies or financial institutions is what you have to understand is they're just looking at that one particular asset. They're not looking at the full picture. And when it comes to the probate laws have to do with the full estate, all the assets, the cars, the bank account, the home, all of the things. It's not just the one particular asset. And that's really why they should not be giving you the advice. It's why you should not Google this stuff. It's why, if you liked our most recent episode, the robots are not going to replace us. Why this stuff? There's just nothing there short of having to hire a probate firm. Ba-dum-bum, right? So another way, Cynthia, did you have other examples where you see something happen? It's like, ooh, probate's coming.
I mean, yes. In general, you can't ask me those questions.
Why don't you think on that? And I want to give an example of something that we saw recently. So, we've talked a lot, and we will continue to talk a lot about the, not only the dangers of doing nothing, but the dangers of doing it the wrong way. So a lot of the DIY stuff, reduced legal services, but something that else is out there is, and we've talked about this too, is your company provided benefits that will provide legal services. And, in many ways, it has all the same pitfalls that the DIY stuff has. I mean, yes, you're working with an actual law firm. They're actually doing this stuff. But we recently had one that that came into us. And it's interesting because the only reason, we can't solicit. So the only way we see stuff is people who proactively reach out to us. So one of the interesting parts of this, I should say, because there are so many, aplenty, if you will, is that the person who did this fundamentally must have known that there were, in their words, gaps, that there were issues. Why else would she have, come to us? So we reviewed what was done and a couple of really big problems. Now, this was done by a law firm. I really hope it was not done by a law firm that has any experience in estate planning and probate. But this was through her company that provided these benefits. So, gosh, the cost is right, except her doing this is going to cost so much more in the long run. But we're going to fix it. That's for sure. But one of the problems is she had a medical power of attorney, and which is where you designate who you want to make medical decisions for yourself. If some people miss this part, by the way, if you can't make them for yourself, I've had on more than one occasion people who push back and say, well, wait a minute, I don't want them to be able to, if I want this type of care, I don't want them to be able to say no. I'm like, they can't. This is only if you're unable to speak for yourself. So if you're both sitting in the doctor's office and they're like, if we operate, we can save you. If we don't, you've got 6 weeks to live. And you say, well, let's operate. And the person you've appointed to make your medical decision says, nah, let's not. They don't get to override you.
Let's see what happens.
Scenario. Let's just see what happens. Let's roll the dice.
Let's just see. Yeah.
Let's just see. But anyway, so I would say this is borderline malpractice, but there was no HIPAA release with the medical power of attorney. And so HIPAA is the Privacy Act for medical records. If you want people to be able to make medical decisions for you, they need to be informed and know what your medical condition is. It seems somewhat implicit, I think. And without having a HIPAA release, then they're not going to be able to be informed to make your decision. So I can't even believe that there is no HIPAA. The other thing is the directed to physicians, sometimes called a living will, where you're saying yes or no, I don't want to be kept alive artificially if I am in an irreversible or permanent vegetative state, was the format or the statutory language that was required prior to the year of our Lord 2000. These were done in 2021. So the language and that was put in there is 21 years out of date, because the statute that creates our ability to do this document, or statutes, Sarah,
that's
that
right,
creates our ability to do this document, very explicitly says this has to be here, this has to be here, this has to be here. So that's kind of concerning, right? It would be like a house being built right now and they use lead paint. Right? Or what are the pipes that homes like mine are all having to be?
Cast iron.
Cast iron. It would be like building a house right now with cast iron pipes. That it doesn't fly. Other things, this was really fun. It was a trust. So the trust said they wanted their assets distributed one way, and then they each had their own will that said 2 different ways to distribute assets. So there are 3 different ways to distribute assets.
Oh.
You pick.
That's fun.
You pick.
Spin a wheel.
It is the worst. It is the worst choose your own adventure ever. Right. And then, of course, nothing was moved into the trust. There was no deed for the home to the trust, the homestead, Sarah, to the trust. Just so many other things. Oh, and then like executors and trustees didn't match. They were different. So how would that work? So yeah, it was a little concern. And this was something done by a law firm through one of these HR programs. So guess what? Brace yourself. Probate is coming. And it ain't going to be pretty. Did I buy you enough time?
Hold on, not for
think
them.
of another?
Oh, we're gonna fix that one. So no.
You were too captivated by.
Yes, I
My
was so
story.
captivated by your story that
That's fair.
I don't know how I function otherwise.
I can understand that. So let's talk a little bit, and then I can't wait for the Sam Sara
Oh
segment.
gosh.
What's the couple name you guys have?
Swag.
Couple name?
What, swag?
Yeah.
Yes. SWAG.
And how did that come about?
I-
Where's the
Y'all
W?
did it.
Well,
It's
was
Walsh.
So it's Samantha
Sam's
Walsh,
maiden
which is
name.
my last name before my parents got married, and Gibson, which is Sarah.
Wait,
Because if we did my middle name, it's gonna say Slag.
That's not a and that's also not a good thing to say, like term over in other places.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You had a different last name?
Yeah, my parents
Yeah.
didn't get married
Mhm.
until like 2003.
It was her maiden name.
Yeah, my maiden name.
When they got married, her name changed
Yeah.
too.
I went from the bottom of the list, or like the bottom of the line, to the front of the line. It was great.
And now we're here.
Now we're here.
I have so many questions about this.
That's why if you hear Cynthia angry at me, she'll go.
There was air quotes.
Samantha
Oh my gosh.
Louise and Walsh gives it. Like she'll go on. She'll just add everybody's name.
I will add
but the
other
Walsh
people's
is
names.
from me.
Because I think your family may sometimes listen to this podcast, I'm going to ask my questions offline.
I mean, you can ask them. They'll probably find it funny.
Because I'm just going to put it to you this way. The little nugget of your parents didn't get married until then doesn't necessarily explain the whole story of why your name changed.
It doesn't.
I mean, I had my mother's last name when I was born, and then it changed to my father's last name.
So
they married.
So I don't know if that's more a different country sort of thing. Because even
I don't know. I should ask them.
You should ask them.
I don't actually know.
Because I know many people, but again, this is limited to America, the United States of America.
Yeah.
That they could go that route, but typically, or I shouldn't say typically, often, they would still use the surname because it's more traditional.
Because we were just progressive in 2003.
Okay, these are my questions.
Yeah, I do. I'll ask. I genuinely don't know why.
Or your mom didn't think it was going to work out. So I just,
I'm not going to say that part.
I'm throwing out all the options.
What?
Satia's like, tell Sarah if that needs to be edited out.
Oh,
you said I could go there. You said I could go there.
Yeah.
Like I'm curious.
I don't know. I'll have to ask. I've never asked them about it.
You ask and then come back in the next episode and fill us in.
Okay.
I've always wondered. I just went with it.
Okay. So I'm just a curious person. I'm not. I'll have to look at my strengths.
Easily distracted.
Which one of them would lead to me wanting to know that? Because it's certainly not woo or harmony or.
I don't think woo. It would be like the curiosity. Would it?
Well, it could be because it's like wanting to connect and getting to know somebody. So they might ask you a lot of questions.
You have connectedness as number 6.
Okay.
Maybe that's why.
Maybe.
You pulled that up fast.
Well, I did.
Back to probate is coming. So some other things to be able to identify. So right now, if there's no plan, no will, no trust, or anything like that, you could be looking at average costs of $7,000 or more per person. So if you're married, that would be what, Sarah?
$14,000.
That could be costs of over $14,000 to go through a court process, to be able to have assets distributed. And this isn't based on some big estate. This could be a house, a bank account, card, like that's it, life insurance, what have you. And that's in $2024. I mean, imagine what that will be 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. So if you have a plan now, you're already locking in that kind of savings. It can take up to 9 months before you can even get started. So what does that mean? It means bank accounts are frozen. You can't sell or transfer a car or a home. A lot of the times families have to fundraise in order to get the probate process started, and they have to wait all that time. And then the really big downer is everything. We talked about this, the decisions about who gets your home, who gets your money, your assets, who takes care of your kids, at what age is money or assets distributed to your kids. All of that is determined by the state of Texas. Age of 18 is the age of majority. That's when all assets are thrust upon them. And then everything's a public record. Your marital history, your kids, the ones you may or may not want people to know that you have, your record of your assets, record of your debts, and you got to have two people who knew you, who are willing to sign a sworn statement and or testify in court that they knew you, they knew your marital history, they knew what kids you had and did not have, and they knew your assets and debts. So that is what's awaiting people. Now, with a will, like we said, a will does still have to go through probate. However, it reduces things. On average, to probate a will right now is about around $3,500. So if you're a married couple, there's two of you. So Sarah, what would that be like?
7,000.
Yeah, or more. And that's in 2024 numbers. So again, 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now, that's going to be a lot more. And that's presuming there's no issues with the will. Okay, so that's presuming it was done correctly. That's presuming it was signed correctly. All of that. Question from Cynthia.
Well, no, those are just about our rates-ish, and we're below like a lot of other firms.
Which I don't understand
like to do
why
a flat
that
fee.
is, but we'll have to do SKUs for that. So, but yes, so that's what you're kind of looking at. The time period to get into probate is reduced. It's usually about 3 months, give or take. So it moves quicker, but there's still a time delay where things can be slowed down. You're not able to, again, accounts can be frozen. You're not able to file taxes. You're not able to do a lot of things. The great part of the will, and this is the most important piece, is when it comes to who gets your home, how are assets and money distributed, who's guardian of your kids, what ages would they receive it, you all get to make that decision. That is the beauty of the will. It is still a public record, though, just so you know. Your will and some of your assets can be subject to a public record. So there are ways to avoid probate altogether. There are ways to avoid probate. You guys are slow. Anyway, so one of the primary ways to do that is through a revocable living trust. Sounds fancy. Frankly, not easy to say. It's easier than the Latin term, which is inter vivos trust.
I don't like that.
Oh, that was vivos.
Or vivos, if you would like. Vivos.
Inter vivos trust, inter vivos. I don't think it matters.
Whatever you prefer today. So that's one of the ways. It is a very common way. It's the most holistic way for most people. This can, if it's done properly, can eliminate any costs. So there's no probate, nada. There's no delay because everything happens according to the trust. You don't have to get approval. You don't have to go through court. You still get all the benefits of a will where you get to decide how things are distributed, who takes care of what, all of that. And it's completely private. There's no public record. So that's kind of the long and short of ways that probate can be coming for you. So brace yourself, and ways that you might consider avoiding it and not having to suffer through that. Anything from Peanut Gallery?
Concur.
Yeah.
By the way, as the youngest child growing up, I often was referred to and put in the category of Peanut Gallery, and I never appreciated that.
Yeah.
That's not an apology. That's more just a comment.
That's what Jordan always says when she's doing the signings. Like, we've got the Peanut Gallery with us. like us coming in for witnessing.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Fun fact.
So what did swag, which I really regret where that took us,
Do you though?
when we're talking about bracing ourselves, probate is coming. What did you come up with for us?
So yeah, completely opposite of, not waiting to get your will done, because you should do it now. We have a list
Well
of
done.
things that you should
Sarah,
wait to do.
I love how whenever you come on, you and Sam, and you know what you're about to do, your voices go higher, like you've regretted some life decisions.
We usually
Yeah.
do with the.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Proceed. I just wanted to highlight that.
I feel like we should always so point out, because
Feature
we
it.
write them out and we show them to Lori and Cynthia usually, except for the signs last week. And Sarah has put sorry in parentheses.
Yes. So we're going to do
Yeah.
this rapid fire on the list of things you should wait to do. Emphasis on the should. So you want to take it away, Sam?
Yeah, murder.
Arson,
Really, any crime.
wage theft,
Dying before getting your estate planning done.
buying a house in this economy.
And just doing a flash mob in general. Not 2014 anymore.
And that is our list.
Okay, I have some clarifying questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you presented this as something that you should wait to do, which
Yeah.
implicitly implies
Oh, no.
that you should do them at some point.
Uh-huh.
So I need to go back to a few of these: murder, arson. Like you should wait
Really
to do
any
those
crime.
Until when?
Until after.
Until after what?
You can no longer do them because you are no longer with us.
Sometimes there's like some really like older
I
people
don't know. We didn't
who
think
just
that through.
decide
Listen,
there's
we
something left to live for,
tried.
so they just do stuff. Is this what
I
you
actually
mean?
don't know what you're talking about, but
We didn't think
I
this through.
do something that piqued my curiosity. That as your employer, I would like to have more definition on. What exactly is wage theft?
I wouldn't actually know how to do wage theft, so
Can you define it?
I mean, you steal money, right? I don't know. Sarah, I need you to start looking.
I don't know. I'm thinking, aren't you the one who came up with this one?
I most of these I jokingly said, and you just went, "Oh, murder!" Yeah, because we couldn't
People
think of
have to
any.
joke about murder. That every Dateline starts with that.
We're not killers, I promise.
I feel like the whole house.
Yet.
Well, I tried. Never mind.
So again, wage theft. What does that mean?
Take it away, Sarah.
Let me Google.
Okay, yeah. Let's while you're Googling wage theft, I am almost certain, put my life on the fact that you probably, nobody here heard about the inflation and employment updates, economic updates that we just got today.
No.
Okay. So there's very good news. Inflation is decreasing. Wages are increasing. Wages are increasing more than inflation. And it also means that housing prices are starting to go down.
It's been
you
going
mentioned
down.
that last week?
Yeah, I've been looking into it.
That's why you should wait.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
wage theft.
murder.
Right.
Wage theft is the failing to pay wages or provide employee benefits owed to an employee by contract or law.
Oh, so I could do wage theft.
I figured it was the opposite.
I thought it was more like paying employees to do work, but instead they just jack around all the time coming up with ridiculous things to do. So they're not really earning their salary. So that's the
just
mindset
be
of
you
an
being
employer.
a boss.
But it would be me.
Can you womp womp that?
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Do you actually do that, Sarah? I only watch our outtakes.
Ouch takes. I will in this one.
Ooh, hold on.
So you just
Some of the
just
most
let the
commonly
good times roll.
Yeah. I do.
Oh, I thought you were doing this.
No, I bleep them out. I think the last time I used a duck. Or no, maybe it was a foghorn.
Oh.
It was one of
So
those.
you do. Oh, I love the foghorn.
Foghorn, good.
But you haven't used the wah wah.
Not yet.
That's fine.
Ooh.
What'd
Okay,
you
so
find,
wait.
Cynthia?
Let me
keeps
tell you
going
all about
behind you,
some of the
Sam?
types of
We have a signing.
wage theft. It's a Wednesday.
It's the 18 plus talks.
Okay. So some of the most common types: not
Not
paying
a sponsor.
interns who are entitled to be paid under FLSA. Here at Burch Law, we believe in paid internships because
We always pay interns,
Yeah,
even when
always.
they say they'll work for free.
we pay them.
We pay them.
Misclassifying employees as independent contractors.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Big no-no.
Not paying final wages.
Yeah.
Something
nope,
we really
done
don't
that.
worry about. Withholding tips.
I do withhold any tips because you guys have not earned them.
Damn.
Not granting required breaks. Refusing pay for work done during unpaid breaks.
So okay, so I like this. There are really more things I could do to you guys.
Just to spice it up.
Just to spice it up. Just to add
Because
some
things aren't
sparkles.
spicy enough.
Are we sparkles and spice?
Whoa.
Something to think about.
Ooh,
Much to think
more unnoticeable forms of wage theft, like shortening lunch breaks and not allowing workers to fully use their PTO or sick days, refusing to pay
Making
overtime,
you attend intake and sales training. Ah.
categorizing a worker as exempt or non-exempt, withholding tips, and unlawfully deducting employee pay because of customer complaints.
Oh, no, that last one seems legit. And it gives me a good suggestion. I've never thought about that. So, as we've explained, there are different things you've got to brace yourself because it's coming. Unless you have a properly done estate plan, probate is coming. It's going to be ugly, or it won't be ugly, or you can avoid it altogether. You can avoid it anyway. They're just never going to get this. And for Sara and Sam, or also called swag, there are things that you should avoid or put off or maybe just not ever do.
Correct.
Like murder.
How about fully
never do
avoiding?
that.
Yeah, don't
Like
kill people.
murder. Thank you. Thanks for listening. And just to cover all our bases about what you just heard, I'm sorry and you're welcome. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And tell your friends about us. We do webinars and live events. The best way to stay up to date is to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Links are in the show notes. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, maybe you have a question you'd like us to answer, or maybe you just want to say hi, hit the link in the show notes or go to burch-law.com/podcast and fill out the contact form.
Much better.
Yeah, I thought that had a lot of energy.